What side?
Here, I'll sit here underneath my photo. It makes sense. Yeah.
I'll stay underneath my photo.
Hello, guys.
Oh, listen,
I was thinking about not wearing socks today.
You know, it's about that time of the year that I probably can't do it much longer.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm coming
day.
east. It's a little cold nowadays.
Maybe in Arizona it's good.
Arizona's perfect for no socks.
Micah, thank you so much for joining us, both as in joining Talkspace in our mission and being our partner and joining this forum today. I don't really know how to introduce you. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure it's needed, but what I did manage to find out is a nice bit of statistic that says that the accumulated number of medals you won is equals to 161 states.
Whoops.
So, Mr. World Peace is with us. He united the human race and won medals for all of them. The reason we're sitting here today is because you managed to take the stamina, the tenacity, the commitment, this amazing power of will that's incredible and not achievable for the rest of humanity that's seated around us today, that allowed you to be the greatest Olympian of all times, and then took the whole thing and just migrated it to a whole new phase of championship, which is being a champion for mental health. First of all, it's just an incredible move or action or decision for any human being to do. And I think, secondly, it really is a ray of hope, because that's exactly the kind of resilience and the kind of decision-making power that we need in order to make some dramatic change. I want to show, with your permission, one of the ads that we did together, because I think it sets the background very nicely.
Sure.
Nikki, if you can help us, thank you.
It was October of 2014 that I lost all hope. I was one of the world's most successful athletes. 18 gold medals. The all-American dream come true. But I was lost. I hadn't left my room in 5 days. I questioned whether I wanted to be alive anymore. I realized that I'm the strongest person I know, but at that moment, I was the weakest. I realized I couldn't handle this by myself. That's when I decided to seek help and work with a therapist. That decision saved my life. You don't have to wait for it to get that bad. Please talk to a licensed therapist as soon as you feel you need help. Brought to you by Talkspace, therapy for all.
Thank you.
No problem.
Both authentic and star quality at the same thing. It's a rarity. So that moment, that there was this instance in time in which you said, I am at the point where I'm going to ask for help. Tell us a little bit about it. Was it self-induced? Was it encouraged by others? What was the trigger? When was this? It has to be nothing and then all of a sudden something. I'm going to do something different.
I mean, I think the biggest thing, sorry, let me get, it's a little, you got to sit all the way back. Honestly, it was really just over a span of a couple of days. I mean, I basically locked myself in my room and didn't want to really talk to anybody and kind of wanted to just be by myself. And during those days, I had thoughts of really not wanting to be alive. And the longer I kind of stayed in my room and was by myself, I kind of thought there has to be another way and another thing for me to do to be able to get better, to be able to find help. And honestly, that's probably the first time I ever asked for help. I was somebody who, obviously I've been an athlete my whole entire life, and I guess I've just learned that it's how we're supposed to handle ourselves is we're supposed to be big macho people that don't have any problems and don't go through any hard times, and we're not supposed to show a weakness. But in all honesty, that's so wrong, and it's not right. And for me, I guess I just got to that point where I was ready to kind of ask for help and see where I could go and see what I could learn. And still today, I mean, 2 years after, I'm still learning more and more about myself. So it's kind of wild and pretty incredible just understanding that if you ask for help, how much you can really get back. Like, I mean, I've been able to get so much and learn so much just about what I go through on a day-to-day basis. And these are still things that are going to happen whenever they happen, right? Like, it's not like I go through one depression spell and it's gone, or I deal with anxiety one day and it's gone. It's something that I'm going to have my whole entire life. So, you know, for me, I've said this so much, and I think it's so true. For me, it's really just trying to sharpen the tools up that you know, that I have and that I've kind of acquired through everything to be able to be prepared for whatever does come my way. And you know, I'll be the first to admit, like, I mean, over the last couple of weeks, I've been struggling, and you know, I'm very thankful that I can ask for help, and I like to ask for help. And I have an amazing wife. I have a great team around me that really kind of holds me together. So, I mean, it was wild to really ask for help, and I think probably the one thing about why I was almost hesitant to ask, because I didn't want to hear the word no. I didn't want to feel that rejection. And I guess just over time, I kind of got over that fear, and I guess I understood that if somebody does tell me no, then they can't help me right then, and that's fine. You know, like, I can't take it personal. So really just being able to experience these things that I have allowed me to really learn and grow to be who I am today. And you know, I'm very thankful that in 2014 I did ask for help. You know, over the last 4 years, it's been a pretty amazing journey to see everything that's happened. Just the growth that I've made, and obviously my 2 little boys and my amazing wife.
Which, by the way, they're going to have to come with you next year.
That's fine. They'll be ready to I mean, they'll be running all over the place. But
There's going to be some more action. But going back to that moment, do you remember what was the feeling? What was it that really triggered it? Were you hopeful? Were you in despair? What did you feel that you said, I'm going to break this wall and really reach out?
Honestly, I was probably more scared than anything else, you know, because I had to go through something that I'd never gone through before. You know, checking into a treatment center and getting the professional help that I needed. It's a scary moment, and I had to allow myself to be vulnerable. And that's, I think, something that, you know, that's a word that I think a lot of people get afraid of, you know, because it's change. And change isn't always bad. So for me, once I kind of got over that fear of changing or being somebody different, you know, for me, I was able to look at myself in the mirror and like who I see. You know, I think for so long I saw myself as just a swimmer or an athlete and not a human being. So, you know, for me, it took a lot of learning to understand, I guess, my self-love was non-existent. So I had to really just learn a bunch of things and go through a bunch of different processes. And honestly, like, some of the tricks that I learned, whether it's saying an affirmation when you walk through a doorway, or reaching out for help, like calling my therapist when I need one, like anything like that, I love having those tools. And honestly, it's been a lifesaver. Like, I mean, I'll say that a lot, and I can't say it enough, but it's true. It really did save my life.
You know, we're celebrating an attempt to help young Americans, you know, today. This is why we're gathered here. And athletes inherently begin as very young people. Mm-hmm. It's probably, you cannot really succeed without doing that. Do you remember who you were as that child, as that kid that started his way into this sport? You know, can you tell us a little bit who you were? Is it very different to who you are today?
I would say it's probably pretty similar to who I am now. You know, I go back to my inner child a lot just because, I mean, I love it. And that was a part of my therapy that was very challenging, but it was also so helpful. You know, going back to that moment, you know, I still remember it so vividly, you know, being in the backyard of my home at 7 years old and kind of playing and happy, having fun, enjoying life. And you know, I think just through my time, like through my career, I became pretty good at compartmentalizing a bunch of stuff and just stuffing it away and not dealing with any of it. So, you know, there are a lot of times where I guess I wasn't really my authentic self. And once I went into treatment and got help, that was the biggest thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to show who I really was, and not be afraid of it, because this is me, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but this is me, and that's what you get.
We'll take you as you are. It's fine, you know. You know, you mentioned the last time we met, you told me something that was very insightful. It was pretty funny. At the same time, and I'm paraphrasing, you roughly said, I spent so many years underwater that I'm not sure I learned enough on about how to connect with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I learned to communicate at the age of 30. Like, that's what I make that joke, but it's true, because, like, you know, for me, I was always taught, like I said, to just compartmentalize stuff and just tuck it away and not bring it up. And you know, for me and especially my wife, like, we have the best communication that we've ever had. And honestly, life is so much easier just by communicating. So, you know, it's
my wife tells me that from time to time.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy how it works. But it's just those little small things that really do make a difference. And for me, honestly, yeah, I have spent my whole life submerged in water. So, you know, I'm going through the process now of learning what it's like to be on dry land. As wild as it is to say, you know, because it was, you know, I ate, slept, and swam. Like, that's really all I did my whole life. So, you know, I'm kind of just learning how to live life now, and it's frustrating at times, but it's also so rewarding.
I'm sure it is. Moving from focusing on yourself, on your career, on your success, and doing this amazing pivot that we spoke about at the beginning, and actually taking care of others, because your energy is now directed outward about helping other people. Do you experience this as success? Is it a different form of success? You know, how do you get used to it? It's such a dramatic change.
I think, like, honestly, one of the most enjoyable things for me now is like when I'm traveling is people come up and they share their stories, their struggles that they've gone through, whether themselves personally or family members or friends. And for me, that's the greatest thing in the world, because I have a chance to save a life, and that's way bigger than ever winning any gold medals, breaking a world record. It doesn't matter. Like, saving a life is all I want to do. And look, like, I'm somebody that has gone through multiple stages of depression. I've gone, you know, I deal with anxiety all the time, and you know, there are people that are struggling from the same exact thing. And if I can continue to get the message out that it's okay to not be okay, like it's okay. You know, it doesn't make any, you know, it's who you are. And you know, I think just being able to learn more about it and to be able to open up and really communicate, I think, you know, really what Talkspace is doing to be able to open up to the younger generations with all of, you know, with social media and all of the stuff that we have going on. You know, it's crazy to think about that 1 in 5 kids, you know, 13 and older, are going to go through a mental health illness. And by 24, 75% of people. So it's like, you know, these numbers are mind-blowing. And, you know, something has to be done about it. And you know, I keep going back to the day where I opened up and decided to start talking about it and the struggles that I had. You know, I wish I knew what it was that triggered me to open up. I keep replaying it in my head and I can't figure it out.
We have quite a few therapists in the hall today.
But really, like, for whatever reason, like, I'm so thankful that I did it then. And you know, it's just truly just incredible just to see day by day all the small changes. And honestly, I can't say enough how much I'm really learning. I mean, I'm learning every day because I still struggle. I mean, I was struggling, like I said, all this week. And it's just going to continue.
So that's a great point that I wanted to ask you. That phrase that you coined, "It's okay not to be okay," and we copied it and we're spreading it all around the world because it's so very true.
It's true, yeah.
It's brilliant, but it's intellectual. What does it mean when you're actually not okay? What do you feel? How do you deal with that? I mean, we all declare that it's okay not to be okay, but then there are times that we're really not okay, and that applies to most of us. You know, what do you do then?
I mean, for me, like I have a couple of things. Like for me to be as healthy as I can be mentally, I know some things have to happen throughout the day. So it's like, for me, workout is so important. That's something I have to do. If I don't, it's just, I'm a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. I got off the plane yesterday after having a couple rude people that said some comments or did whatever. And I literally got off the plane and could not wait to get to the hotel because all I wanted to do was work out. And as soon as I worked out, I was able to kind of relax a little bit. So for me, that's something that I have to do daily. Communication is something that's it's such a major part of my day, especially with my wife. Being able to pop on my phone, we're always on our phones, right? So to be able to pop on and no, I don't care, you're fine. But to be able to, but to be able, you know, like for me, honestly, to have the access to hop on and talk to a therapist, like it's the best thing in the world. You know, for me, as somebody who's traveling nonstop, it's not always easy for me to get in and actually see my therapist face to face. And for me to be able to pick up a phone and write down some messages, like for me, it's the only way I stay sane. So all of these things, I think I've just been able to pick up little things that work for me throughout all of the things that I've done. And I have to make sure that I do them every day because I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a harder worker. And these things I have to do to allow myself to give myself that opportunity. So yeah, there's just a little checklist that I just have to do daily or weekly to make sure I'm staying healthy as possible.
I'm learning. Thank you. You mentioned those rude people. I mean, people see you and they have a preconception of who you are, and because you're so successful and so famous, and everyone builds their mental image of who and what you are. What don't they know? What are the most common misconceptions? What don't they get?
I'm a human being, honestly. like I always make this joke about like I'm not a zoo animal. Like, because there are times where I feel like a zoo animal. Like, everybody you walk through an airport and people are just like, and it's like you really can't see them literally staring at you or like walking behind you. Or you're like, I mean, yesterday I got up on the plane to go to the bathroom and there's 3 people taking photos of me standing by the bathroom. And I'm like, are you serious? So it's hard because it's you know, I'm a human being just like everybody else. And that's what I want people to understand. Like, what I did in the water doesn't define who I am as a person. And I think everybody only thinks of me as a swimmer and not as an individual or a human being. And that's frustrating. So, you know, I mean, I put one foot in front of the other just like everybody else. I put my pants on the same exact way as everybody else. Like, you know, the only way that, I mean, for me, like, I was very passionate about what I did and didn't give up. That's why everything happened in my career. So, I mean, I think that's the one thing that I wish people would understand more. You know, I'm not some super wild human creature, superhero, this, that, and the other. I'm a human being. And I just expect to be treated like that, you know, and it's frustrating when you don't. I mean, we all know that there's some interesting people in this world. So, I'll leave it at that.
Understood. Do you ever miss some of it? Sport?
I mean, I like obviously the competition is one thing that I loved. That was something that I truly really enjoyed about, you know, what I did. But I mean, I can find that in other things that I'm doing. You know, so for me, I'm using the goal setting tools that I had and learned as a very young kid. You know, transitioning into the next phase of my life, and I don't ever see myself competing ever again in the water. I don't want to. Because everything that I'm doing now is so much more exciting and so much more powerful than competing.
And you know, you can compete on who helps saves more life. You know, it's not a bad competition.
It's a good competition.
That, you know? There are quite a lot of therapists in this room today. And do you think you can, you know, try and condense what is it the basics or the 2 or 3 things that therapy taught you? Because there's an element of education, of learning, of understanding, of, as you mentioned, getting those tools. If you can reduce it, what are those 2 or 3 tools that you really acquired, if you will?
I mean, I'll bring one up because I in the beginning, I absolutely hated it, and it really upset me. So when I was in treatment, I would wake up, or the nurse would wake me up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, whatever time it was, and she'd sit me in a room and stare at this wall that has all these emotions, 8 basic emotions on it. She's like, tell me how you feel. And I'm like, well, to be honest, I'm pretty pissed off. It's 5 o'clock in the morning and you just got me out of bed. I'd rather be sleeping right now. So I didn't really fully like jump into it the first couple of days. But after a while, I was really eager to kind of see what emotions I had and where they were stemming from. I think that's something that truly is just helped me. It's like, if I feel anger, why am I feeling anger? You know, like, where is it coming from? Because before, that's where I would just stuff it down. So I'm more aware of what's going on in my body and more aware of my body to understand where these emotions are coming and why I'm acting certain ways. So I think that was just something that I guess I never really thought about because I was submerged in water. And I think it's been pretty powerful, and also we just implemented it into my foundation. And it's something that we're trying to do now with my son, Boomer. Like, you know, he throws a temper tantrum. So obviously he's a little over 2.5, so he doesn't fully get it.
He's just doing a job.
He's like, you know, like, you take a step back and you ask him, you know, why are you upset? And then 30 seconds later, he takes a deep breath. We teach him these, we call it lion breaths. So he takes lion breaths. So when he starts to cry, we just say, lion breath, Bubba. And he, and it's, I mean, I had to do it on the plane yesterday. My wife literally texted me and said, lion breath. So it's, because I had one guy to my left who's like staring at my laptop and like I'm writing notes in my journal, and then he's watching my TV, and I was just like, what? I was getting frustrated with the whole thing. So I think those 2 little things are just something for me personally that just helps me relax and helps me just take a step back and think about everything. Because I think in the past I would just react, and it's not healthy. So for me it was just, you know, I go too fast, like my life moves too fast as it is. So it's nice to kind of take a step back from time to time.
Swim a little slower.
Yes, I swim very slow nowadays. I just splash.
I saw the pictures with the kids. It was quite a lot of fun.
Boomer's crazy. He's the most fearless 2.5-year-old I've ever seen in the water. Like,
I wonder who he resembles.
I just keep seeing myself at age group swim meets, like 5 years, 10 years down the road, for like 8 hours out of the weekend on a Saturday afternoon. I don't miss those days.
Going back to the therapist, do you see any downsides to therapy? Any vulnerability?
I don't, and honestly, like for me in the beginning, it was hard for me to just, I guess, buy into it or not have my walls as high as they were, my guards up as big as they were. And I think once I was able to relax and kind of eager to really jump into it, that's when I found myself happy. Like, I mean, there were times I'd go in and be like, I don't want to go to this. I don't want to go sit on the couch for an hour. But every time I came out, I learned something. I was smiling. I was opening up and talking about things. So, you know, it's like some things that you don't always like or you don't want to do, they're still good for you. And you need them. It's like when your parents told you to eat your veggies. No one wants to eat your veggies as a kid, but they're good for you. So it's like, you know, for me, like I embrace it because I know it's something that is needed for me to be healthy. And it's needed for me to be happy. And it's just something that I truly have enjoyed. It's weird kind of opening up to somebody you don't really know, but it's also, healthy. And for me, like there are times where I don't want to open up about certain things to certain people. So to be able to go in to a therapist and just basically not feel judged, I think that for me was something that I really, really loved about it, and still do. I mean, because like for me, like we said earlier, like there are always all these people that have like their opinion on who I am or how I am, but they don't really know me. So it's like, like there are times I do feel judged for certain things, and now it's because of what I've gone through and the things that I've experienced and the things that I've learned, I just don't care. Like I am who I am, and sorry if you don't like it.
Deal with it.
Yeah, right, it's not my problem.
So going back to your comment about Boomer, who is 2.5 years old, and of course he can learn some of the practices and the tools, but if we're talking about younger people, if you look at yourself at a much younger age, if you could guess or think or suggest, what do you think is the right point in terms of your growth and your age where young people should really access therapy? Where could have been helpful to you as you remember yourself as a younger person?
I mean, the biggest thing that I really struggled with as a kid was the stuff that I went through with my dad. Kind of having 20 years where I could probably count on one hand that I talked to him or saw him. For me, that was hard to carry. And as a dad now, I want to be able to give my son everything that he can possibly have and teach him everything that I can possibly teach him. But it was just, for me, I think I don't know what the appropriate age is, but I think if you need help, I don't think it matters what age you are. I think it's super beneficial to go in and talk to a therapist or seek help. I go back to what I said earlier about, me being an athlete and having this macho man kind of mentality. Like it's not how it should be. And it's like, it's just frustrating to see that because there are so many people that struggle and we wonder why our suicide rate is up. So there are ways that we can help others. And I truly believe that we can save a lot of lives and we have saved a lot of lives. And I'm looking forward to seeing how many more people we can help because this is something that's real. I live with it every day. There are people that struggle every single day. And people are talking about it now. Like 2 years ago, nobody really said anything about it. It was just kind of brushed under the rug. So now it's actually in the forefront where people are standing up and they're talking about their struggles. And it's okay for that. Like people have accepted that. I think that's something that's extremely powerful and a really cool movement that we've been able to see.
Absolutely. But talk about that point when you were still an active athlete and so successful. Were you ever worried that talking about it or acknowledging it is going to harm your career within the context of the Olympic team and the sport?
No. I guess I just was always putting on a front that everything was okay.
Everything was okay.
I mean, that's like, there was one night in particular, one of the first week or 2 weeks in therapy, we're watching like a Sunday night football game or Monday night football game. And here I come across the TV. Michael Phelps suspended for 6 months. The whole room turned and looked at me. And I was like, hi. And that moment right then and there is the time that I just said the real world is going to see who I am. And that's how it's going to be. Because, I do feel like for part of my career and my life, I lived in a bubble, right? Like all I did was eat, sleep, and swim. So, and I wasn't really exposed to much of the outside world. So, it was challenging, but I don't know. I just never really wanted to, to stand up and talk about it. And I guess when it got so bad, to the point where I didn't want to be alive, I knew something had to happen. Something had to happen fast.
We're going to see the trailer of Weight of Gold a little later and continue the discussion. But at the time when you suffered through your career, and now that you see other athletes that are going through at least something similar to what you went through, do you feel that the organizations, whether it's the USOC or any other relevant organization, are aware, and I'm giving them some room on purpose? Are they aware and not doing anything, or are they not aware and doing enough? What is it at?
I just don't think it's something that's a priority, to be honest. I mean,
Why? How could this?
because
be a
they only
priority?
want us to be able to perform, right? Like, that's what they want. So, and if it's not us, who else is it? There's somebody else that they're grooming coming up. And it's frustrating. You know, like, like we never had access to somebody to talk to. Never. And if we did, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I was a part of the national team for 20 years. I didn't know anything about it. And it's frustrating, but, I mean, I guess it's kind of the world we live in.
So I'm making a short jump in here, but actually what I think I hear you saying is that the sports psychologists within those organizations are actually performance optimizers.
Honestly, before the 2016 Olympics, I never knew that they had any, or I didn't even know if they had any before that.
It's pretty incredible.
Year. So it's shocking, but it's also kind of not to me, just because I've lived in that environment my whole life. So it's crazy to see and kind of wild to wrap your head around. Like, they just don't care about your well-being, or they don't show they care about your well-being. And hopefully with what we're working on with you guys will see later, hopefully we can make a change, because it's not fair to the other athletes. And I feel like everybody deserves that chance to get help if they need it or want it. And I mean, I know athletes on the swimming team. I know other Winter Olympians personally who struggle and don't know what to do, and don't know who to talk to, and don't know where to go. Nobody's there. And it's sad. It's just super sad. It's not how it should be. I mean, you would think something differently of a organization, or like a national governing body, or definitely from the USOC, but maybe in the future we'll see change. I hope we will.
We're going to make them change.
It's the only way they probably will.
I think so. You're despite your what you went through and what you're still going through, you're incredibly optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, but life's too short. Like, you know, and honestly, like, for me, like, I want to give myself the best chance that I can to grow and to learn and to teach others. Because, you know, for me, look, like, I had a great career. I had a fun career. It was, I don't know when I'll understand it, if I'll ever understand it. But, I mean, just to be able to understand what I went through and to now kind of watch where things are going. I mean, this is just something that we have to get on top of, and we have to change. So,
once the crisis and you went to therapy, and do you have a memory of a moment that you knew it's going to be okay, that you could see a light, that you know?
I mean, the first couple of days, I went from sitting like this to wanting to like jump and attack my therapist for like coming at me. I felt like they were coming at me.
They're very dangerous.
But they were, I mean,
from time to time, yeah.
But it was just like, but I think it was just the feeling that I hadn't had before. You know, like I was forced to go through things that I never talked about. So I think that was something that was a challenge for me. But after I got through it, you know, I was like, wow, like I almost felt the weight off my shoulders, where I could walk taller, and I was like, oh my God, I felt like I took like 50-pound weight out of my backpack that I was carrying around the whole time, and it's so relieving to take more and more weights out day by day, and that's just, you know, I continue to try to pull more weights out. I know there are a lot of more weights I have to pull out, but it's definitely not as heavy as it was.
Thank you.
No problem.
We have a couple minutes. Is it okay with you that we take a couple of questions?
Go ahead, sure, no problem. I don't know if
questions?
I have anybody.
Really?
Nobody? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm pretty shocked.
Honestly, it was just times. I worked off of times. So, I mean, for me, I just always had goals that would keep me focused and heading in the right direction. And you know, I wanted to do something that nobody else had ever done. So I was going to find a way to battle through whatever I had to battle through to make sure that happened. You know, and I know my coach will be the first one to admit he probably didn't handle certain situations properly or as best as he could. But, you know, I think I think swimming was almost really an escape too, just because I had so much going on, whether it was with my father or with other struggles that I had, and it was kind of like a safe place for me to be. So all of my energy and time went into that. Go ahead.
I wonder if you would have had a therapist while swimming. Do you think it will make you less of a swimmer?
If I had a therapist while I was swimming? I don't know. Honestly, I really have no idea. And people have asked me that. They would always say, do you wish you had all of this before? And I honestly don't know, because like my career could have been different. Everything could have been different. And to be 100% honest, I really wouldn't change anything that I've gone through in my life. The good, bad, or the ugly. And some of it's been really hard, really hard. But it's made me who I am today. So that's, for me, that's all I want. It was a fun journey to go through, but no, I personally, I don't think I would ever change a thing. Because I've been able to learn so much through the process and experience a lot that I can also go back now and look at and try to break down certain things, and that's pretty fun. Like I've journaled a lot through my career and written down a lot of stuff, so it's always fun to go back kind of in history and see the thoughts I was putting on paper. Go ahead, right here. You're good. Go ahead. I'll repeat it. Go ahead. You're good. I can repeat. I'll repeat the question. Yeah. You're fine. Okay.
I was just wondering what your family or your wife did to help support you through everything you were going through, and what advice you would give to maybe someone who's struggling, what to ask for from friends and family.
We actually just kind of talked about that the other day. My wife will never understand what I go through, and I will never understand what she goes through as my wife. But she kind of just has picked up on certain things that, like, I guess, warning signals for me when I am going through a stage. And she just kind of stays away from certain words, certain triggers for me, because, one of them and I fly off the deep end. So I think there could be more, and there should be more that's done for significant others or family members who are going through or watching a loved one go through a struggle, because it's just as challenging, I believe. I don't know what the answer is of what we can do, but I think it's something that I would like to find more information about, and I would like to hear more from my wife's side to see what she goes through. I understand a little bit because I know she's stressed, and I can tell she's stressed. But I'd like to dive into it, and it's a conversation I literally just had yesterday. And it is so different. Like, I can't say that enough, but it's all a part of that puzzle, right? Like, she is the glue that does hold me together, and she is there if I want to talk, or if I need to be left alone, she knows. So I think it's just working through things, and for us, it was communicating. That was the biggest thing for us, just having a better understanding of a little bit of what each other goes through, because you can't, like, I'll never fully be able to explain to where she understands exactly what I'm going through.
Last question, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Here, we'll do two. Do that one in a second.
I'm a therapist at Talkspace, and I also work as an assistant professor at a college. And one of my students did a paper on athletes and mental health, and the fact that, just like you mentioned, a lot of them feel like they can't really come out and say they have mental health issues. So I was wondering if they have reached out to you, if athletes have reached out to you in terms of being connected to resources to address, mental health issues. And then the second part of my question is, now that you've come out, and even though society as a whole is more receptive towards those with mental health issues, have you faced any type of stigmatism as a result of it?
The first part you'll see in a couple minutes or in a little bit.
Exactly.
For Weight of Gold. For me, in all honesty, like I probably wasn't really the most liked person on my teams while competing. I wasn't the friendliest of athletes growing up. I was very to myself and focused on what I was doing, so I was never really a part of a team. So I don't know if people are afraid to approach me, but I think they're a lot more open now And I think it is pretty powerful to be able to for me to, I don't want to name names because you'll see, but some of the guys and some of the male and female that have come up to me or texted me or called me about it, it's for me, it makes me happy that they're reaching out because they are struggling and they don't know what to do. So I do think that we will see a lot more of it moving forward. I mean, we've already started to see it. And your second part was, sorry.
Now that you have come out
Yeah.
about struggling with depression, and society as a whole is more accepting of those with mental health issues, have you faced any type of stigma as a result of coming out?
No, I mean, I think really when I opened up and I guess probably like 2 years, probably right around after the game, a little bit after the games, I felt the stigma was kind of gone, almost in a way, because there are people that were opening up and talking about it. And I think really over the last 3 or 4 years, you've seen celebrities, athletes, you've seen people step up and talk about the struggles that they have. And I think it's kind of really powerful because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It shows that they're human beings, Like, people always say, well, he's an athlete or he's started this company and he has millions and millions of dollars. Like, how can anything go wrong with them? It's not the case. Like, we're all humans. And I think people opening up and talking about it, I hope that it's showing that. It's showing that human side and that we are pretty similar. And we do all go through struggles, no matter what walk of life you have or what walk of life you're on. So I personally have seen a lot of change. And honestly, I can't tell you enough how many people will come up to me on the street or in an airport or wherever I am and share their stories. And for me, it's the greatest thing in the world. It's one of the most satisfying things to be able to hear people and see people opening up and talking about it. Because it just shows that people are scared, or they were scared, and now they're understanding that it's okay. Last one?
Hi, Michael. I'm curious how sharing your story has changed your relationships with people close to you, other than your wife, your friends, and your family.
Well, I've weeded out a lot of people in my life. I've removed a lot of things, a lot of people from my life. I basically just pretty much simplified things. Because I guess I now have a more clear head of what's a priority to me, and where I want to go. So I think just the communicating side is something that's been so powerful because I can actually be me and know that I'm not being judged or feel that I'm not being judged. And that wasn't the case for so long. So my circle has become smaller and my circle has become tighter, just with the people that are in it, because that's all that matters to me. Sure. You can say one more.
My question would just be, what advice would you give to young teens that are struggling right now?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is be comfortable or try and find a way to be comfortable with who you are. Like I said, for me growing up as a kid with ADHD and, always getting made fun of for wearing a little small suit and shaving my legs, or I had big ears or this or that, and I was picked on all the time growing up. I honestly use that as really motivation than anything else. And I think, I think the biggest thing now with the world that we live in is social media is just, it's so hard. And I think it's for my wife and I, if you look at our social medias, we put up what we want to put up and what we want to share to the world. It's authentic as possible. Like we're not BSing you. Like we're not doing that. Like what you see is who
No
we
Photoshop.
really are. It's not like I'm not hiding anything. So I think and I mean, what was it? I put a post up. God, what was it? It was recently when I was struggling over the last 3 to 6 weeks. And I put it up just because I was going through a hard time, and it was a quote that really helped me, and I thought it could help others. So, I think just trying to be your authentic self, as hard as it is at times, but, understand and love who you are as a person. I think one of when I said it earlier, saying an affirmation when you walk through a doorway, that's something that's so incredibly powerful, because you can have a list of 10 affirmations that you have in your back pocket, and imagine how many doorways you walk through in a day. You know what I mean? Like, you say these things to yourself, you believe them because they're real, and you feel them and you live them, and that is something I think is so powerful.
Michael, thank you very
No
much
problem.
for joining us today.
Sure.
And for the inspiration, and I hope you're not rushing off to the gym right now.
No, not right now. I was up early, 5:30 this morning in the gym.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.